back from the ad break. You are still watching Prime Live. Now, tonight we are joined by Muhammad Junaid, the Kung Fu World Champion legend, here today to tell us all about the first South African tour group to embark on an Islamic and cultural tour to China. Now, Muhammad is going to guide us through this exciting 14-day tour, which promises to be fascinating. It's going to be a fascinating blend of culture, history, spirituality, and the Chinese culture. Assalamu alaikum, Muhammad. Welcome to Prime Live, and thank you so much for joining us. Please unmute yourself.
Done.
Jazakallah so much for joining us. Welcome to Prime Live.
Thanks for joining. It's an honor to be back with you guys on Prime Live. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much. Now, as a Kung Fu world champion, you've experienced the rich cultural heritage of China. Can you tell us more about the highlights of the tour that's coming up, and what will it showcase in terms of the intersection of Islamic and Chinese culture?
I think the first Islamic and cultural tour to China taking place in the first week of November, in a couple of months' time, towards the end of this year, is as a result of interest and demand that was created while my wife and I spent the entire month of Ramadan in the month of March earlier this year in China, experiencing Ramadan, having iftar with the local Chinese communities, traveling from Hong Kong to Guangzhou, Beijing, the capital city, going to Xinjiang province, and then also visiting the ancient city of Xi'an, as well as Inner Mongolia. So we were documenting this journey via our social media platforms. So we were posting short little videos on Instagram, on TikTok, on Facebook. And people started following this Ramadan journey in China along with us organically. And then people started asking, you know, is it possible that we can experience this? Because it seems very intriguing. We've not known much about Islam in China and Chinese Muslims, and you are practically showing us the current day situation of Muslims and Islam in China. And as a result of that, the interest coming from our 1 month Ramadan journey in China in March, it then produced and gave rise to this first cultural and Islamic tour that is scheduled for the first week of November. So this is a 15-day trip. In this tour, Muslims that will be going with us will be able to perform Jumu'ah Salah at the oldest mosque in China. It was built in the early 6th century in the south of China, in Guangzhou. They will also be able to visit the memorial park and mosque of Sa'ad ibn Abi Waqqas, radiallahu anh, the companion of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam, who undertook 2 diplomatic missions to China, one during the lifetime of the Prophet ﷺ, and the second diplomatic mission was during the Khilafah of Sayyidina Uthman radiallahu anh. And then along the way, the tour group will be able to interact with literally dozens and dozens of Chinese Muslim communities that are spread across the south of China. So this 15-day tour will comprise of Guangzhou, the south, because that's the point of entry when Islam arrived in China in the early 6th century. And then they will also visit Yunnan province that has a very strong Muslim community. And then they'll end the trip with 2-3 days in Hong Kong, a very cosmopolitan island. So not really that many Chinese Muslims, but a cosmopolitan Muslim community comprising of Chinese Muslims, Arabs, Pakistanis, Indians, Bengalis. So the trip, yes, from an Islamic perspective, will help to trace the roots of when Islam arrived in China in the early 6th century, as I mentioned in my book that was launched in December last year. And it also focuses on this 25-year period that I've been traveling back and forth to China for martial arts training, and also then to mix with the extensive Muslim communities, because Islam is very strong, and Islam is literally an ancient religion in China. It has mosques that are over 1,300 years old. The Muslim population in China extends well beyond 100 million. And out of the entire mainland, probably about 46,000 masajid are spread across the mainland. And what we've seen now with our trip in Ramadan to China, that it confirms and consolidates that Islam is doing well, it's alive, and the Muslim community in China, highly organized, very much integrated, and beyond a shadow of doubt, there is no oppression of Muslims and Islam in China. That, unfortunately, is propaganda that comes from the West.
Thank you so much for sharing that with us. Now, during the 14-day tour, the travelers will have the opportunity to meet traditional Chinese Muslims. So what can the visitors learn from their interactions, and how does it deepen the understanding of the local culture?
I think firstly, it will provide the tour group with an understanding of the origins of when Islam arrived in China in the early 6th century. There are prominent companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ who visited China over a 3-4 decade period. Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh, who is classified as the father who took Islam to China. He undertook 2 diplomatic missions, as I mentioned. Ja'far ibn Abi Talib radiallahu anh, the companion of the Prophet ﷺ, an older brother of Sayyidina Ali radiallahu anh, he also undertook a diplomatic mission to China along with Sa'ad. And then Hassan bin Harith, Thabit ibn Qais, as well as Uwais Qarni, these are all companions that visited China for the purposes of a diplomatic mission and propagating Islam. So in this 15-day tour and trip, the group will meet Khoi Muslims who live scattered across the mainland. They will meet Uyghur Muslims who are mainly concentrated in Xinjiang province, because in Xinjiang province you will find a Uyghur Muslim population in excess of 26.5 million. So they will meet Uyghur Muslims as well as Tajik, Uzbek, Kazakh, Salar Turkic, Bonan. There are 8 ethnicities in China that are classified as Muslims, and they all have their own little unique nuances and little cultures that would, if compared to the other different, unique, they will be able to sample the Chinese Muslim food and cuisine. The Chinese Muslims are very strict when it pertains to halal food, so there is no issue even if you're traveling in China in you acquiring halal food. So going to these ancient masajid, performing Jumu'ah Salah in a mosque that was built in the early 620s. Whoever gets an opportunity like that, and then to visit the memorial park of Sa'd ibn Abi Waqqas radiallahu anh, and then in between also the group, because you are in mainland China and China is an ancient civilization, they will get to experience a number of aspects that is relative to the ancient Chinese culture. I think if the group comes back, they will have a far better understanding of the relativity of Islam in China, and it would really be able to consolidate the fact that Islam, beyond a shadow of doubt, is an ancient religion that has existed in China since the early 6th century.
And for obviously, in terms of shopping, we know that ladies love some shopping, and also whenever someone thinks of traveling, you think of the cuisine. Can you tell us about the unique delicacies that visitors or the people that will be part of the tour could look out for during their trip?
Well, the Khoi Chinese Muslims have their own unique cuisine. So they will be able to sample this food literally on a daily basis. And when I was spending Ramadan in China now in March, I was literally having suhoor with the Chinese Muslims, iftar at night. And it's very different as opposed to the cuisine that we are used to. It's very nutritious, it's very healthy, and there's a lot of thought that goes into the meal preparation by Chinese Muslims. And I think the Chinese citizens in general. There's a lot of emphasis on what exactly you must consume, that it's, yes, tasty, yes, it's nutritious, but also understanding the fundamental benefits that the food is able to provide the body with. So while there, they will be able to sample from the Khoi Muslim food, which is very different to the Uyghur Muslims of the northwest Xinjiang province. And then they will sample Uzbek, Kazakh, Tajik. So they will literally, if you're going to the ancient Khoi Shengsi Mosque, which is the oldest mosque in China, and this is the mosque that the group will perform Jumu'ah Salah at, when you come out of that mosque, you will literally find all 8 ethnicities that are classified as Muslims, all selling their traditional food outside of the mosque. So there will be the first opportunity for the group to sample 8 different types of cuisine. And then with respect to shopping, there'll be absolutely no shortage of opportunities there. Particularly if you are in Guangzhou, they have shopping centers that are specifically dedicated to shopping. So you will find a shopping center that essentially has 15 floors, not like Trade Route Mall, not like Canal Walk. We're talking about 15 floors, and each floor has over 100 stores. And these stores are wholesale to the public, and the quality is excellent. You can purchase anything there from jewelry to perfumes to clothing to bags. So there will be no shortage of opportunities for the ladies and the men to do shopping on the trip as well, inshallah.
Inshallah. Now that sounds very, very exciting. Now for those who are interested in this amazing tour, can you maybe give us an idea of the costs involved? And I know in the beginning you mentioned that it's happening somewhere in November. Please also just emphasize the dates for the listeners.
Yes. So the scheduled departure for the first Islamic cultural and historical tour to China is the first week in November. I will be up in Johannesburg and Pretoria from the 28th of May to the 3rd of June. I'm delivering a Jumu'ah talk at the Rasuli Center in Raslouw in Pretoria, where I will deliver feedback on my experiences of Ramadan in China, and then also talk about the upcoming trip. There are 2 packages essentially that have been put together for anyone interested. Bookings are naturally limited because China is a very strenuous country to visit. There's a lot of movement, a lot of walking. It's a big country. So we are only taking a limited amount of people. So while I'm up in Joburg and Pretoria at the end of the month coming now, I'll be doing 1 or 2 information sessions in Pretoria and Johannesburg. But the packages essentially are intermediate and then a premium package. So approximately all-inclusive, the prices are ranging between 35 and 45,000 Rand. That's starting at intermediate up to premium. People can contact us via our socials. There is also a WhatsApp number that people can call or message. Salma is doing all the logistical arrangements for the upcoming trip. So if I can just supply that number and people can then contact her, either call or WhatsApp. The number is 082 301 9070. And I must add that this will be the first fully fledged South African Muslim tour group that will undertake an Islamic tour to China. I've been talking about the history of Islam in China for the last 25 years as a martial arts champion, having lived in China and traveled there more than 2-3 dozen times. And now I think is the perfect time for South African Muslims to experience firsthand what life is like for Muslims in China. It is a world unknown to those who have never been. And again, I say, if we are fooled into believing that Muslims are being oppressed in China, here is your opportunity firsthand to experience that that is not the truth.
I mean, Jazakallah so much, Muhammad, for joining us and just for giving us insight on this tour. And I really, really hope that viewers at home that are watching right now can really, really, see the importance, not just on the side of, oh, it's a holiday, but it's also an experience for you to learn about, the Chinese culture and how they integrate that also with the Islamic culture. So Jazakallah so much for shedding light on that topic.
Thank you. Jazakallah. Sheshe.
Jazakallah so much. Viewers at home, this was an amazing interview that I had with Muhammad Junaid, who was just giving us insight on the upcoming tour that's going to be happening somewhere in November. And make sure that you do, I hope you took the numbers that were on the screen, but we will communicate with you also via social media in case you need more details on the tour. But without wasting any time, let's go to a quick ad break. We will see you right after this.